go on here. I would like to call this meeting to order, and please stand for our invocation led by Mr. Mason Howard and our Pledge of Allegiance led by George Sullivan.
Father God, we thank you for another day, God, another opportunity together as this board, God, as we look and as we decide upon the future, Father, of our district. I pray that you would give each of us wisdom, Father, to make the right decisions, God, not always the easy decisions, but the right decisions, Father, for our students, for our faculty, Father, for all of our employees and for our community. God, I just pray that you would give us the wisdom to do your will. Father, I pray for all of our staff, God, in every facility, God, in every school. Father, I pray that just for their protection. And God, I just pray that they would be safe, Lord, as they work each and every day. Father, most of all, I just ask that you would be with our children. Father, help us to help them as you would see fit. God, just bless this night. I just pray that you take care of each of us. Father, especially be with Mr. Frizzell. In your precious son's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the board to begin making your way to the front as we transition to our awards, achievements, and recognitions. And we'll now turn it over to Mrs. Carla Chrisman.
Good evening, President Cook, Dr. Halashka, and board members and guests. It is indeed my pleasure to bring awards and achievements and recognitions of our district. And this evening, as always, we have wonderful things to celebrate. The first celebration that we will have is our HeartWorks Award. It will be presented by our Coordinator of Human Resources, Ms. Mary Lou DeShaney.
Thank you. I'm sorry it takes me so long, but I'm going to get there. I think I can make the rest of it now.
Okay.
Good evening. It's my honor, with the help of the administrators from TWI, to present to you the HeartWorks recipient for January, Mrs. Ellen Leal. Ms. Leal is a PE aide at TWI Elementary School. Ms. Leal received the HeartWork nomination from her co-worker, Christine Lloyd, because she was so helpful with the production of the third grade program. According to Ms. Lloyd, Ellen took time out of her schedule to help with every part of the program, from running lines with individual students to assisting with practices. Ellen was an integral part to making the program successful. We appreciate everything that Ms. Leal has done to make all the students successful at TWI. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us tonight. She had an emergency. So Mrs. Zeal and Mr. Damien are here on behalf of TWI to accept this dinner for two from our 4 BISD Kids partner, El Chico's, and a certificate on behalf of Dr. Alachka and the board for going above and beyond to make BISD a great place to work.
Now it's my pleasure to recognize a vital part of our BISD team. Would our Director of Maintenance and Transportation, Mr. John Craig, please join them at the front along with your teammates? February is Love the Bus Month. So we want to honor all of our amazing bus drivers and transportation staff for everything they do to support BISD and make each day, the start and the end, a little brighter for all of our kids. I want you to know that we have 83 buses. We transport about 1,500 students a day, and yearly 524,867 miles are traveled in routes. That does not include field trips or academic or athletic competitions. These bus drivers are up and ready to roll whenever we need them. The research from the National Academy of Sciences and the U.S. Department of Transportation consistently says and has proven that going to school in a bus is the safest form of transportation for all of our children. And here in BISD, we certainly agree. But we'd also like to add that in BISD, we have the best transportation and bus drivers in the state, nay, possibly the country. I'll say the world. I'll say the world. And at BISD, we are grateful and we do love our bus drivers. Thank you. We'd like to take a picture. And the district will be sharing breakfast with the bus drivers on Friday morning. And there will be a big cake. Don't tell anybody. Now we have our first student recognition of the evening, Mr. Chris Hutchison, our coordinator of extracurricular programs. Mr. Hutchison.
Through the Texas Music Educators Association extensive auditioning process, the highest ranking musicians from across Texas are selected to the All-State Band. The following Brazosport High School students have earned this honor and will represent their school by performing in the All-State Band Concert Saturday, September 15th in San Antonio. Nathaniel McKay.
You want us to clap after they're all done?
John Cloyder. Tyler Bartholomew. And Justin Ruhlman.
And the directors?
The directors are Brian Casey, Martin Montoya, Ben Alanis, and Jason Connolly.
I love on the KBA State Board, we were told that 1/3 of 1% make it, so 1 out of 300. So
That's
this is
right.
Amazing.
Very nice.
And I just want to thank you guys because 2 of these guys play trumpet at my house quite often. My son teaches trumpet lessons. And when they're gone, I have to ask my son, is that you playing or the other guy? Very good. So really enjoy hearing y'all play.
Well, y'all be safe. They're heading to TMEA net tomorrow or tonight.
Tomorrow.
So be safe.
Hey, in a few years, you'll hear that place.
All right, our final award for the evening will be presented by Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services, Mr. Danny Massey.
Thank you. The Texas High School Coaches Association Academic All-State Teams recognize high school athletes who excel in the following categories: grade point average, class rank, ACT and SAT scores. The following football players were recently honored for their commitment and dedication to perform at the highest level of excellence academically as well as on the field. From Brazosport High School, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Thad Tiller. We'd also like to recognize 3 others that are at college class, and one is participating in a soccer game right now. John Miller, Louis Medina, Michael Harfum, and Doug Cannon are also academic All-State.
Awesome.
And Coach Dean Gatlin. From Brazosport High School, we'd like to recognize Caleb Angel. Dylan Neely. And Corey Green. Coach Barnard from Brazosport High School is here to join us. Thank you. Congratulations, gentlemen.
At this time, in accordance with BED local, the board will provide an audience with individuals that signed up prior to the meeting to address the board. Tonight, we did not have any requests to comment to the board, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. Our next agenda item is executive session. Executive session may be called for the purposes permitted by the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code Section 551001 through 551146, Section 551071 consultation with attorney, and 551074 personal matters including appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, dismissal, and complaint. We will return shortly. Thank you.
The board has ended executive session. We will now convene an open session, and the time is 6:40.
And I'll turn over to Dr. Alaska now, who will talk about our consent agenda highlights.
Thank you. This evening, we have a few action items in our consent agenda. I would like to quickly highlight some of these for the board and our audience. There are also additional details about each item in the board book. In purchases exceeding $25,000, we are excited to highlight the upgrades to the Brazosport main and ninth grade cafeterias. This work will take place over spring break and will include painting, new signage, and table replacements in these common areas at the high school. We also have our second semester cosmetology program cost for the Natural Images Beauty College, which is one of the many CTE programs offered here in BISD. Under sale of delinquent tax property, we have one offer for our property included to consider. The Brazoria County Property Tax Resale Committee has reviewed the bid and determined that it is reasonable and acceptable. The committee has recommended that the properties be sold for the amount listed. We also have one waiver to consider for a low attendance day. On January 24th, BISD delayed the start of school for 2 hours due to inclement weather. The Texas Education Agency allows districts to request a waiver for any instructional day with at least 10 percentage points below the last school year's average attendance due to inclement weather. Our attendance percentage was 95.12% for the district on this day in 2013 and 75.20% for the district in 2014, exceeding the required 10% difference. The funding for our average daily attendance based on 20% less attendance would be approximately $70,000. Finally, the board election is coming up in May. Therefore, the order calling the election, along with joint election agreement with the Brazoria County, are included for your consideration. We will also be hosting a candidate training on February 18th at 5 o'clock here in the boardroom for anyone who may be considering candidacy. This concludes my summary of the consent agenda, and I will turn the meeting back over to President Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Alaska. Does anyone wish to pull any items from the consent agenda for discussion? Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? Second. Mr. Howard? All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We are striking agenda item A, moving to item B. And that is bids and bid renewals.
I see a bunch of papers coming.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy CH, along with our strategic objective of providing adequate resources for alternative funding or sound financial stewardship, along with implementing facility improvement plans, happy to provide an opportunity for 6 new roofs throughout the district. These roofs are legally advertised in the paper for re-roofing at Polk Elementary, including intermediate, LJI gym, Brazosport High School gym, pool areas, Black Spots Theater, Slade Field, along with portions of Brazosport High School. These items were included in the bond, $40 million bond issue. Therefore, we compare those to what the budget. What we have is two items to consider. One is the bids or the proposals, and then the second, a reallocation due to the cost that came in. Proposals have been received, tabulated, they're included in your packet. The highlighted amounts are the ones that we're recommending. 9 vendors did compete for the roofs, which was a good turnout. That's how you ended up going to 2 different vendors, one of which is local. Total bid cost, $1,878,974, plus the design management services with Armco, $91,800. That originally was $108,000. We discussed discussed with them, which is why I provided you revised information. There was some additional services for the piping, mechanical areas, and they ended up pulling that out and eating those costs. So I was happy to reduce them. Armco.
Okay.
So brings the total to $1,970,774. Now we're going, that's the bid portion. Let's look at the reallocation side of it. The budget for the project totaled 1.5, $1,530,000. Main issue with D-Wood was under budgeted. And that was due to the anticipated need of replacing all the decking, which is expected, along with costs associated with working around the pipe. What we've done on previous roofs and these roofs is use a typical cost per square foot, and it's inaccurate to date. Unfortunately, D-Wood wasn't typical, and this covers all decking replacements, so this is a worst case scenario. We didn't want to have something that came in later and have change orders, so we've actually bid it out for all decking to be replaced. If there is some that can be reused, we will, which would bring down the cost. So this is a worst case scenario. Good news is we've been under budget on a number of other maintenance projects included in the bond. So we have remaining funds of $358,327 to put towards this project, leaving a balance of $82,447 to come from contingencies within the bond program. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee met on February 6th. We had 8 members unanimously approved. The remaining 7 members weren't able to attend. So we had a majority approved reallocation. So this time it is recommended that the Board of Trustees award a contract to Jayco Roofing in the amount of $295,974 for the roofing project at Polk Elementary, and the contract is CS Advantage USAA for the remaining projects proposed in the amount of $1,583,000, being the low proposals meeting all specifications and providing the best value to the district. In addition, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees reallocate $358,327 from various completed maintenance bond projects, along with $82,447 for bond contingencies as reviewed and approved by the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee.
Is there a motion to approve the bids and reallocation?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? Sills?
Who got the bulk of the contract?
CS Advantage, USAA, they're out of Bryan College Station.
Any more questions?
What's the longevity of the roofs? Estimate.
We bid out a 15-year, but CS Advantage provided us a 20-year. So they have a 20-year roof.
How long are they warranty?
20 years. I'm sorry.
Warranty for 20 years.
Yeah, that's a standard at 20 years. We got that, we're in business. That's a fair price, in fact.
They were extremely competitive.
Yeah, because on square footage, that's lower than what my estimate was. I'm glad we didn't use my estimate. We paid $82,000 more.
Any more discussion, questions? All questions, sure, no, it's good.
How old are the roofs that are replacing? I mean, like 20 years? I don't know.
Plus.
Sir?
20 plus.
20 plus.
They're all out of warranty, right?
So we got our life out of them.
We did.
Yes.
Yeah, the edge look, it's got 20-year out of warranty, 22.
And included in the packet is also the reallocation for each bond item, and it has the year. But, and that was the year whenever we put this together, so it's another year. So add a year to each of those numbers.
Yeah. This is a good deal all around.
Any more questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion carries. I want to say, as part of the bond oversight committee, I really appreciate what you do, Dan, as far as making it so obvious and transparent, and this bond money, so. Thank you. A lively group, and they're all interested, and it's very good.
Yeah, Dan, you know that whenever I don't get them to you, you've done real good in controlling those dollars there.
Next item is consideration of approval of application for limitation of appraised value from BASF.
And now that we've spent some money,
Now where are we gonna get it?
we're hoping to make a little money on this one. As you may recall, last month, the board did receive a resolution consideration of BASF. This is in accordance with section CCG of the Board of Trustees policy, along with strategic objective, to provide adequate resources for alternative funding. As you may recall, there was some delays in the comptroller providing companies with new forms for the 313 agreement. BASF did request a resolution of support in order to help secure financing and planning purposes. Help upper management make the decision of, are they really serious about providing one of these, or is it just verbal conversations? So it does help a lot for you guys to put forth one of those resolutions. But the good news is BASF is considering an ammonia unit. A major factor in choosing location is the economic impact of these value limitation agreements. Formed already, so they were able to complete them. It is included in your packet for consideration. I have the bound copies ready for signature this evening following consideration. Just a brief summary of the project. It is an ammonia unit along with related utilities, infrastructure, and logistics. A $750 million capital investment. In the application, they will shoot low, but they're committing to 10 permanent jobs, so that's the minimum. The 2-year construction period beginning first quarter of 2015 through the first quarter of 2017. Two things that the board needs to consider this evening is, one, to consider the application. It's one of the things required by the state comptroller. And then the second thing that's required is a third-party consultant to perform the economic analysis for the project. We recommend hiring Case and Associates, since they are a preferred consulting firm. They're well versed in state funding, and along with all the various changes that continue to be made. The application fee associated with this project is $75,000, which is what the company pays to the district. That fee is then used to pay the third-party consultants, so we're out no dollars for the district. The administration recommends that the Board of Trustees elect to consider the application for limitation on qualified property from BASF, along with contracting with Case and Associates for consulting services related to the agreement. The board president, board secretary, and superintendent be authorized to execute documents related to the application. Happy to answer any questions.
Is this a good deal in the amount of monies? I mean, we're gonna, on the tax part, we're not gonna get anything to win.
This is the first, well, for one, let me back up. This is the first step in the process. So what we're doing now is just considering the application, and we meet again about the actual agreement. But as far as the tax purposes, beginning, as soon as construction begins, first quarter of 2015, they will start purchasing and buying, putting equipment on the ground. It's fully taxable. Well, actually, the new law is that the value limitation goes into effect the first year, and so we would only tax on $30 million the first year of the agreement. Once but it would be fully taxable for INS purposes. So for debt service, 100% taxable. If you recall, for M&O purposes, we really don't keep it because
We don't want that.
the state basically limits the amount we can retain for maintenance and operation purposes. So from a district standpoint, what we look at is, one, we weren't going to keep the money anyway. Two, the company holds us harmless for any losses that we may have incurred. And then two, they share in the savings, which isn't part of what we're discussing this evening, but typically what we've been doing is sharing 10% of the tax savings that they're going to generate. In addition to that, it increases our value for debt service, which helps with long-term planning because it helps reduce the cost of remaining taxpayers.
That helps us because we both win, school district especially.
It's I think we've heard this as it'll be the 14th agreement, 14th application to consider, and we've never been hurt by one. It's been always positive, and over the last 3 years, it's been very, very active. And we'll start seeing some benefits, actual supplemental payments coming in the next few years. A lot of the projects that started 2 years ago had a 4-year delay, so we'll start running into some of those benefits. I can provide a summary for y'all and an update. I think that'd be interesting for y'all to see as far as when those supplements will come in.
Emailing them out.
And the third-party consultant is required by state law.
Yes, sir.
And there's a preferred third-party consultant that
Yes. We use Case and Associates for all 13 of the previous ones. It's the one the company prefers as well. They're basically an independent party to provide the calculations for what the true economic impact will be. The state wants to know. Me, I can't do that. I could, but I'm not independent. And so the state wants someone that's independent of both the school district and the company to perform the calculations so that they have a more comfortable feeling that the numbers are accurate.
So, if I understand you right, I think I did. Did we ever talk to any other third-party consultants?
They're basically the primary ones that do it, but I'm not really even aware of too many. There might be one other company that does besides Case and Associates. But they're the ones that are currently at, well, not currently, last week testifying in the state lawsuit regarding public ed, public funding. They're the experts in the field. So they're I think if you're looking for anybody with the best information available, they're going to be the ones to have it. They're in Austin. They're in tune with everything that's going on from a state legislative and well versed. And then they use another attorney that's one of their main practices is to handle 313 agreements to ensure that we're complying legally with the requirements.
And do they have a standard fee?
$75,000. It's a net wash is what it is. The company pays for it. We're not going to gain anything out of the application fee. It goes straight to the consultants no matter what.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
This is our 14th in the last 3 years, is that?
Not the last 3 years. 14th overall. we had 3 probably through 2007 or 8, and then a lull. We didn't have any for a while, and then boom, we've been seeing them rapidly. So,
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the application for limitation on qualified property for BSF and also to the contract with local Case and Associates for consulting services related to the
Any more discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion carries. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dan, you're doing pretty good. Why don't you come up with some more good things? All of these sound good to me.
Next action item is the instructional calendar makeup day to inclement weather. Mr. Massey?
Danny, you're gonna have to do this.
Well, this one's all
This
yours.
is not gonna be well thought about.
It's my pleasure to present the instructional calendar makeup day in accordance with board policy ED legal and strategic plan goal 1. On January 28, 2014, BISD was closed due to inclement weather. The district is required to make this day up for students. The Board of Trustees approved the 2013-2014 instructional calendar with the makeup day due to inclement weather as May 26th and June 6th. May 26th is a scheduled holiday for both students and staff in observance of Memorial Day. June 6th is scheduled as a teacher preparation day, the day after the last day of school. Brazosport High School graduation is scheduled on June 6th also. The makeup day must be 7 hours in length. The other day in the instructional calendar that could possibly be used other than May 26th or June 6th is April 18th, which is Good Friday. We surveyed 2 district advisory committees. the Teacher Communication Council, which is made up of all teachers, and our District Education Improvement Council, which is made up of parents, business, and community members, as well as teachers and administrators. Their preferences were 38% preferred May 26th, 35% preferred June 6th, and 27% preferred June 18th. I'm sorry, April 18th. The recommendation, the administration recommends that the Board of Trustees select a makeup day due to inclement weather on January 28th. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
You're asking for a recommendation?
Yes.
It appears, just guessing, May 26th seems to be the best date when we would have students in class. June 6th may be iffy, and then April 18th, Good Friday, may be somewhat iffy. Since we get funded on number of students in the classroom. But May 26th is a good date. So I just throw it out there. I suggest May 26th.
And for Memorial Day, right? National holiday. And Doc, I'm going to that day off too, right? Of course, June 6th, it would just be our students in school, and not a national holiday, so
Brazosport High School graduation is scheduled for June 6th. This is what makes that day difficult. That would be very difficult, day to have graduation on the same day that we're having school.
we have to move graduation. And why would it be difficult? Because in the past, we've had a makeup day that same day, and we had graduation. Just
Families in town, setup of the stadium, the preparation.
What day do y'all want? The administration?
I think on the June 6th date, it's important to note that the day before that is a half day because of testing, but we can't move the half day down because you're required to be there 7 hours. So 6 has to be 7 hours, so it has to be a full day on the 6th. So they go a half day on the 5th, on an exam day, and then they're supposed to come
you
back.
can't flip off those days.
Because
The makeup day cannot be an early dismissal day. June 6th would be the makeup day.
it's already noted as a
Well, anyway, did y'all come up with what is administration?
Well, as far as the development of the instructional calendar, last year that was presented to the board last March, and the board approved the instructional calendar. With the instructional calendar must have 2 weather makeup days in there, and the calendar committee brought to the board and it was approved that June 6th and May 26th be the options for the weather makeup day.
Okay. Which one do y'all prefer?
May 26th, 30th.
Can I ask you what our local county schools are doing?
I believe, I'm not for certain, but I know Angleton is looking at May 26th. They haven't had an official decision yet, but that's from what I got back from their administration. That's more than likely what they're going to do.
Those on taxes, some people are using President's Day.
West Sweeney and West Columbia are using February 17th. That's a professional development, scheduled professional development day for us. We do have scheduled presenters coming in for that day.
And Sundays.
And what was that day for them, the undergraduate series? Just an off day?
I don't know if it was a professional development day, or if it was a exchange day, or if it was a scheduled holiday.
Well, we approved this calendar, but this is awful choices.
There's not a good choice up there. A third, yeah. Yeah.
The best bus drivers in the country.
Yeah, you're right. It's, well,
Now I see why you didn't ever answer my question.
that's,
I'm slow on that.
I do have a question.
yes.
Since June sixth is now scheduled for teacher prep day,
Work day, yeah.
what does that do? That's usually when, I guess, that pops up and close up or.
Do your grades and then turn all your stuff in, get your.
Yeah, so if they're teaching that day, what, does it move to Saturday for the teaching?
We did in the past, it was a short Saturday.
Yeah.
People showed up, took care of their business and left.
Yeah, I mean, June sixth is gonna be a very ineffective teaching day.
Jim, what do you think?
Pretty much have everything wrapped up already, and they're graduating that night. They're graduating that night, so what's that day?
Like, have any
Money in our pocket.
No. I think logically, May 26th is probably the favorite. It's just, I have a real concern from the Memorial Day situation, because Memorial Day is kind of moved out of what it used to be. You know, was honoring those in service who died in service to the country. Now it's moved to more celebrations and concerts and things like that, but you still have a lot of people in the cemeteries and the local cemeteries, and they'll be putting out American flags that day, you know, for the deceased veterans. So, you know, that's probably the most logical day, but, you know, I'm not totally in favor of it, I guess.
We got to do one of it.
Yeah, we gotta do one, that's right.
Gotta make that.
So in case it's decided, you know, on May 26th, I can't support it.
John, are you-
Yeah, I'm done.
I agree with you, and I'll be honest with you, as a teacher, a past teacher, I can't, Memorial Day, national holiday, families together, I think it still means a lot to us. Or am I inconvenienced as a teacher because I have students on the day my students graduate? I'd rather be inconvenienced, because my inconvenience doesn't match up with the soldiers who, you know, support the Memorial Day. I can teach that day and do a graduation. That's just an inconvenience for me compared to Memorial Day, what we celebrate those guys did for us. I just can't really vote for it either. That's why, next year's calendar, we need to find better days, optional days.
They look very similar.
Danny, could we pick another day?
Sure, there's February 17th, there's April 18th, June 6th, and May 26th.
Says it's a good date, but it's too late, I'm guessing, because we have people coming in.
You also have spring break.
Spring break, there's 5 days of spring break too.
Once before, we just did the Friday of graduation, or we survived. Not saying it's a good idea, just saying we survived.
Well,
What's wrong with Good Friday?
I mean, that's up to y'all. I mean, this is a discussion among y'all. I mean, there's not a good day. I mean, there's, as you can see, the advisory committees we polled, you know, whatever day you pick, 2/3 of them aren't going to be in agreement. So, it's really, it's a difficult choice. It's a difficult choice. And so,
I move for April.
Well, I think it's good we're doing this.
Well, here's my point, you know, I'm a Catholic. We either go to mass in the morning, or we go to mass in the afternoon.
Jim?
Sorry.
We got a motion.
Oh, sorry. Is there a second for April 18th?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? That's Good Friday?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, my point is, okay, we go to mass in the morning or in the evening. Doesn't interfere with school.
I'm just saying, if we're talking about instructional, like where something's actually gonna happen, it's not gonna happen June 6th, the day we get out. So, I mean, if you actually want to accomplish instruction, I would say.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second.
Or discussion, any more discussion?
Well, I just want to make a comment. I'm glad we're right here, and I'm very proud of the way it was handled. Because our superintendent was off traveling. You know, she takes these little short vacations. But she was off on business. And when this started happening, she contacted the other school districts in the area, and they reached some agreement that we were going to take off. And that was a whole lot better than sending it out in the morning and say, don't come. So I think we need to be aware of that. That it was very valuable to my family. Thank you.
I probably should know, but I'm just gonna thumb my head. When is the final exam? When are they? After May 26th.
Fourth and fifth.
So May 26th could be, it's just pretty close to maybe some time that could be used for prep day for the final.
For Easter, what holidays, I should look it up. We'll be a Friday off, and that's it. Or Friday and Monday. Just Friday, so there'll be no holiday at all for Easter.
But we're gonna have to do something though, because that's why we have this ability for bad weather. And we still have to make it up.
And it has to be 7 hours.
Yeah, and I'd rather take a pound in all kinds of things because we know we're gonna provide the education for the children. That's the only reason we got school.
Horrible thing. What did you say was wrong with spring break? What did you?
So it's available, there's 5 days available on spring break too. You would consider that.
You can take one, they're only off 4 days.
It's an option.
Yeah.
Well, right now we have a motion for Good Friday.
Yeah, let's vote on that.
And I'll be honest, it's hard for me to overlap, take a holiday away for a religious holiday or Memorial Day. It's just hard for me to vote for that. And as a teacher, again, we in the past used that Friday with your graduation was fine. So, I'm not sure how many people would get on Memorial Day holiday or Good Friday if you've already made plans for you and your family. So I'm just throwing that out there. But any more discussion before we go?
You could if, depending on how many.
It's less than 10, or more than 10% difference.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Why? I second it. But I'm in favor of something else.
Can you raise your hand by aye? So we have 3. Those opposed by nay?
April 18th.
All right, so the motion is not carried.
I suggest a day, one of the holidays of the spring break. They still get 4 holidays, up to 4 holidays. And it's doable.
And whatever day y'all assign, we will communicate that we're having school that day, and the doors will be open, and the buses will run, and we'll be serving food.
And nobody will be here.
We accept May 26th. May 26th.
Okay, the motion for May 26th. Second. Or second? Mr. Brazell, any discussion?
I think it's a good idea. Also,
Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by nay?
Nay.
One last question. Is there any chance we get a waiver for this day like we did last? No way, we've already tried. It was in the notes, just making sure.
He just said, I moved to.
What?
Somebody name one in 3 hours.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Well, I don't know.
I have a question.
Sure.
It's dumb.
I know that Saturday is kind of a voting, but in light of all this discussion, is that a possibility? I know we got baseball, I know we got soccer, we got all this stuff. Throw that out as the Hail Mary.
Always a possibility.
Except nobody will come other than that.
I think we may be in that role for any of them.
I think so.
Problem is, we don't have a comparison for those.
Okay.
See, I can do this Saturday. Have we ever done that? Just like we did once.
With staff, not students. There's graduation on Saturday also.
Did we have a second? Got a second? Any more discussion?
Second, third.
This is,
All right, those in favor
graduation.
of June 6th, makeup date, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay?
Nay.
We have 2 nays?
No, this is graduation day also, right?
Yep.
We have a show of hands of those who were in favor, so we get an accurate count. And names.
So that's the date. That's okay, but we finally after 30 minutes, you got that done.
All right, thank you, Ms. Massey. Our last action item is foundation graduation plan, course requirements.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy EIF, Legal and Local, and Strategic Plan 1.22, to create a system to ensure, to create a system that instructional strategies are relevant, engaging, and incorporating 21st century learning skills, we would like to provide you with information regarding changes in the high school speech and high school social studies due to House Bill 5. First of all, Kathleen Lindsay, our ELA curriculum coordinator, will present information regarding speech. She will be followed by Michael Williams, our secondary social studies math curriculum coordinator, who will explain the changes in the social studies sequence. And after the presentation of this information, we will provide 2 recommendations for the board.
A 1/2 credit of speech has been a Texas graduation requirement since the mid-1990s. Under the new graduation plan from House Bill 5, speech is no longer a required credit for the foundation plan or any other endorsements. However, the State Board of Education on January the 29th added this statement to the foundation graduation section. Students are required to learn key communication skills such as delivering clear verbal messages and choosing effective nonverbal behaviors. Students are required to demonstrate proficiency as determined by the district in particular speech skills. The knowledge and skills learned by students in a speech class are needed for them to be able to communicate effectively in this 21st century in their career and life beyond high school. While no longer a required course for graduation, districts must ensure that students demonstrate proficiency in speech skills. We believe that these skills must be taught in order to ensure that students can demonstrate proficiency. Although speech is no longer mandated as a graduation requirement, it can be a local credit requirement, just as health has been a locally required elective credit of 1/2 credit since the 2011-12 school year. Therefore, in order to satisfy the House Bill 5 requirement that students learn key communication skills, we recommend that the board approve speech as a local elective credit requirement beginning in the school year 2014-2015.
Good evening. Tonight I would like to explain changes to high school social studies that will begin next year due to House Bill 5. This is the traditional social studies sequence under the recommended plan. Students currently are required to complete 4 years of social studies. For students who are currently in high school, they will continue on this recommended plan for graduation. However, House Bill 5 does allow these current students to opt out of this recommended plan and opt into the new foundation plan. House Bill 5 creates several changes for social studies on the new foundation graduation plan. Beginning with next year's freshmen, students will only need to take 3 social studies classes instead of 4 in order to graduate. The most noticeable change is that the new requirement creates a gap year in our current structure. This gap year between social studies courses is not recommended, especially since the one social studies end of course exam is in U.S. history. House Bill 5 also removes the requirement that students take both world geography and world history. Students or districts may now choose between these 2 courses. Therefore, as a district, we need to determine which world course will become the default class for most of our students. Our first recommendation is to address the gap year by moving the end-of-course tested U.S. history to 10th grade from 11th and government and economics then to 11th grade. This removes the gap year between social studies courses. In order to graduate, students are required to pass 5 end-of-course exams. With this new structure, students will take 3 end-of-course exams in 9th grade, English 1, Algebra 1, and Biology. They will then take 2 end-of-course exams in 10th grade, English 2 and U.S. History. In addition, by moving the U.S. History EOC, or end-of-course exam, from 11th to 10th grade, struggling students will have more opportunities to take the end-of-course exam if necessary. There is one exception to 10th grade U.S. History that we would recommend. This would affect a small number of students, those who successfully complete Advanced Placement or AP, Human Geography, or Advanced Placement World History as freshmen, and choose to take the other AP World class as sophomores. In this particular case, those students can delay their U.S. History until 11th grade. Under House Bill 5, only one world course is required. Our second recommendation is that next year's freshmen take World Geography, regular pre-AP, as the default social studies course. However, students will have the option to take World History, regular pre-AP, AP Human Geography, or AP World History to satisfy this world requirement. Therefore, we recommend the board approve the new Foundation Social Studies default sequence as World Geography in 9th grade, U.S. History in 10th grade, and Government and Economics in 11th grade.
So tonight you've heard 2 points of action for the board to address in order to prepare for the changes created by House Bill 5. The first action item is to decide if speech will be a locally required high school elective. The second action item is to decide the default sequence for high school social studies. We would be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Can you go back to that one where it shows the 3 with the gap in the middle?
Jordan, can't hear your microphone's not on.
Okay, so, okay, by doing this, we've created an open space.
The House Bill 5 has.
Okay. And then we're moving forward. So what is the intent to fill in that space? You're going from 4 classes to 3, but you're still gonna, the kids are still gonna have to take 4 credits. We're reducing the number of
Not
credits.
in social studies, they will only have to take 3. So it will go toward endorsements or all the other avenues that House Bill 5 opens.
That's what I'm getting at. What's gonna fill that space credit-wise, because they're gonna have to.
And from a social studies perspective, ideally, we would be, along the way, we'll be convincing some of those students to take a 4th social studies, AP social studies. Let's say in 9th grade they took World Geography or pre-AP World Geography or AP Human Geography in their senior year. For one of the endorsements, Arts and Humanities, one of the ways to get that endorsement is through the social studies. Another way is collect enough AP classes. And so from a social studies perspective, we'd like to catch them along the way, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and have them taking a 4th social studies class. But if not, then that allows a space for all of the new endorsement tracks.
So yeah, to me, this is bigger than just social studies. I mean, if we're freeing up this space, what's the intent as a district to use in that space? And it sounds like any one of the endorsements can fit in there. I mean, that's what, okay. So is that a good thing? Because I like world history.
Yes, it is.
I think this is a good approach.
The whole point of House Bill 5 was to allow for flexibility for students to select a pathway that would help them to be either college or career ready. So it's a pathway of interest. And so they would, really the ideal is that by 11th and 12th grade, they're really focusing on the pathway that's going to either take them into the career or to the field of study that they're going to want to focus in. So there are course offerings that we have that would fill in those spaces that they're required to get.
If a student wants to take world history, that's available, and the pathway for
And we've also tried to leave on this slide, on the 9th, the default, we're defaulting to the World Geography course, just after a lot of conversation. I've met with both campuses, teachers twice, once in December, One's in February, both the principal and associate principal at both campuses. A lot of conversations over the last few months. And obviously from a social studies perspective, we're not delighted about losing a fourth of our core. And so, but what we've tried to do for the students is even, and the wording here is very specific in that we use the word default, and that this is kind of where, if you don't have a preference otherwise, kid, this is where we suggest you go. But for those who, let's say, a kid is very passionate about world history, we want to allow those as options as well.
Right, well, I just want to make sure that it's very clear that we're not taking away something and watering down our education system. We're taking away something because we're going to give students an opportunity to take something better in its place. So that needs to be understood. And it's not just an opportunity to take a underwater basket weaving as an elective to pad your grade point average. So I mean, that's the part that really needs to come across, that if you're going to be in science or engineering, then you need to take a science or an engineering class in that place, not just another, an elective. So I think that needs to be, that's the selling point, because going into this, I was going to vote no. But if we can have a program that is going to go to a place with something better, then that's the only way to improve something like this, in my opinion.
The thing that kind of bugs me when I listen to this and listen to the newscasters and all that, you're not dumbing it down, you're providing more opportunities, and if that student wants to take the world geography, he can. And now we're supposed to be starting counseling in 8th grade to try to figure out which course you're going to go with. And the thing is that if I'm probably 5th grade to get the parents started. But I'm saying 5th grade, so the parents get used to coming so that they can help them with the curriculum plan. But I'm an optimist on that, of course. But it doesn't have to change what kids are doing now. They can opt in, and that's what kind of bugs me the most is that you hear all this and say, well, wait a minute, if somebody wants to go the non-foundation or I don't know what the number paying, the 26 credits or whatever, if they want to stay with the 4x4x4, they can. That's the best option potentially. But for those who can't afford to go to college, don't want to, by having these, I won't call them gaps, I call them additional opportunities to work on the vocational effort. And so that's why we need to strengthen our vocational, or CTs, I'm getting the right term. But anyway, every time I hear this, it's kind of like, guys, listen to what to say. It's not just an automatic, hey, we don't have to take as many things. Especially if the student wants to take these. And I'm hoping that our counselors would encourage it, like you're saying, is that, and so that's the thing, that's the key from that standpoint. But, as far as the speech, I happened to listen to the State Board of Education when they were talking about this. And it was so ludicrous. I don't know how to put it better, but from the speech standpoint, they were saying, well, we need to be able to ensure that they display that they can do speech. What does that mean? So what they do is they approve it and then let us figure it out. Normally that would be a good thing, let the local districts figure it out. But from the standpoint of what they were saying is that, okay, we won't have speech as a requirement, but we want to make sure that they have the capability of speech. So it's kind of like, I don't understand that. But anyway, I turned it off after that. I couldn't listen anymore. But, in the algebra 2 thing, and that's on the theorem, that's what they need. They need it. Or now they have 2 more options. I don't know if they're going to supply those or not, but that's fine. It's supposedly the equivalent of algebra 2. But I hope those kids who are now in the 7th or 8th grade wanting to go to be a chemical engineer, better than the civil.
I knew that was coming. I don't agree with it. I think civil engineers are the most important because we wouldn't have bridges.
That's true.
We wouldn't have the whole thing, so.
You wouldn't have the materials to make them. Anyway, that's always been, when I started listening to this and looking at it, it's like, wow, you don't have to opt out, but you can't. And And I think that's the thing, and listening to our lieutenant governor's candidates talk is kind of key. So I turned that off too. Anyway, I think this is a good deal. You know, I think, I guess I do have a question. When you say approved speech as a local electing credit requirement, we're requiring them to take it. And it's really one of their electing. And then as far as the world geography, you say that was a consensus of? Or is it like a consensus?
But
is it like a consensus we just had on our previous item?
I think we've had a lot of conversations, and one other thing, if you followed House Bill 5, in the wording is that they invented a combination course that is a world geography and world history combination. And we've been waiting for the state board to rule on it, make decisions, and they spent 3 days together last week and didn't really talk about it. And so we finally heard from TEA this week that it's not going to exist next year. So we were there are no standards for it. I don't even think there's a formal name for it. But we were waiting to see if it was going to be available next year and what the quality of the standards would be. With that off the table, I think a very large portion of my teachers support world geography over world history, in that seeing that it does lay a foundation for multiple things. I mean, we've laying a foundation for the U.S. history, but also laying a foundation just to kind of, I guess, as they go out from high school.
But that's a new course. Time it gets done through TA, that's 2, 3, 4 years. So you know, I wouldn't work like that. So
what is human geography? Can I ask that?
Human geography is an AP class, it's an advanced placement class that we have over at Brazosport, so our students can take it and test for college credit. But the difference between world geography and human geography as far as content is that in a world geography class you're teaching both physical geography, so the rivers and the mountains and the minerals and the weather, and human geography, culture, and often tying those together. In human geography, the AP class, you're almost exclusively looking at human culture. So you spend little or no time with a river or a mountain or, I mean, the only time we really talk about the environment is when we look at agriculture and how humans do different types of agriculture. So that's human geography.
I got one last question.
Sure.
So how many credits is required to graduate?
They do 22 for the foundation plan, and then for an endorsement, it would be 26.
So they could graduate with 22 under the foundation plan?
Yes.
And
There is a strong, I guess the way that it was worded in House Bill 5, they're really pushing for the endorsement so that a student can graduate with that.
exactly.
But there is the option to graduate.
And I think that's where some of the bad rap gets is, okay, we're eliminating 4 credits. Well, in order to get into the CTE program, maybe get a job right after, you're gonna have to do 22 plus 4 endorsements, is most likely.
And then,
Not necessarily, but you know, it would seem, if we develop our CTE program, then yeah, that would be.
And the students that are kind of the college round student, they're gonna wanna get the 26 hours
Sure.
because there is also the distinguished foundation plan graduation, so they still have that option.
Well, hopefully they get that 26.
So upper level plan will still do the 4 sequence that we've been using already?
They would do the endorsement, and then they have to have algebra 2, so there would be, most likely those kind of kids would be on the academic track for each content area.
There's no change in that. That's the thing that bugs me when everybody gets talking about this. You can still have that, and a lot, large percentage will do it, so.
Well, I just want to say that I had a lot of students who became like welders, and they could never take welding because of the 4x4 plan. They couldn't ever get across the street in industrial arts classes. And also students who had to take correspondence to get it worked in because they're taking so many AP classes trying to get their, average high, and they would take correspondence health from Texas Tech and the class from BC in addition. So I think opening up is a good plan, so I'm all for that too. Is there a motion?
No, I'm sorry. Speech, since it was removed, I guess
From the state.
from the state. And we, the district, as a district, we have provided prove that our children can, in my words, speak or communicate concisely and well, that the district has chosen to say local local elective requirements, that as a district we say, our students are going to take speech.
Yes, what you're saying is pretty much correct. Right here on the second bullet, this verbiage came straight out of House Bill 5 as a expectation for students and they are expected to have communication skills and be able to deliver clear verbal messages. Well, as a district, how do we ensure that?
How do we measure that?
How do we measure that? And so that's kind of what Mr. Atkins was speaking to. And so our recommendation would be to require that as a course for our students as a local credit now, since the state is not required.
Let me get it back. I want to interject real quick. The funny part was, from that, there was some discussion at the meetings in Board of Education that they could test out a speech. How do you do that? Well, I think I'm gonna turn it off. I don't know how you do that, but anyway.
Well, we need two motions, one for speech. Is there a motion?
I move to accept the recommendation for speech. I was making my kids say
Second.
whether they liked it or not.
Can we just,
Can we combine the two?
They just have to choose from motions. Is there any more discussion about making speech required subject? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion carries. We need a
I move that we accept the second recommendation concerning social studies changes.
I'll second that. I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Yeah,
Can we use our mics, please, for the hard of hearing?
I second it.
I can hear that. I can read lips too. Awesome. Any further discussion about that? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, especially on the speech part.
I do want to acknowledge quickly our
Curriculum and instruction team, as well as our high school counselors. They have worked really hard on all the House Bill 5 matters, and they have been very worried that they are maybe somewhat behind the group in what they have learned in conversation. As we are definitely in the forefront of other districts, and we are setting the standard for greatness, and other districts are looking to us at what we're doing. And so I'm very proud of them and the work that they've done, and they're doing amazing things. So I think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for our kids. It gives them more flexibility as well as maintaining that high standard of excellence that we have. So it's exciting.
Who's the boss?
That would be Dr. Sandra.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it is, because both of those were important. I'm glad somebody pushed it. Good job. Thank you very much.
So we're moving to our report section, and our first report is the district improvement plan, second quarter. Mr. Massey?
Thank you. Good evening. In your board packet and in your board and on your board website, you can see the second quarter report of the district improvement plan for the 2013-2014 school year in support of board goals and each of these strategic plan objectives. In accordance with board policy DQ local and in compliance with the Education Code 11.252, each district is required to develop, review, and revise a district improvement plan for the purpose of improving student performance for all students. The district improvement plan is aligned to the district goals. Each goal has 2 to 3 performance objectives, which come from the strategic plan. Each performance objective has 2 to 9 strategies. Strategies are the actions for how the performance objectives will be accomplished. They also include who is responsible for monitoring them and what evidence is used to demonstrate success. The district improvement plan is aligned to the strategic plan and the curriculum audit. We've also ensured our strategies are aligned with our most recent targeted improvement plans. New this year in our district improvement plan, The strategies that address the system's safeguards from the state accountability measures are also noted. Strategies noted accomplished are 100% completed. Strategies noted considerable progress are more than 50% completed. Some progress equates to that strategy is less than 50% completed, and no progress is 0% completed. There are 109 strategies in our district improvement plan targeted for completion by the end of the fourth quarter. By looking at the chart provided, you can see 66% of our strategies have been accomplished or more than 50% completed in the second quarter. We will have our annual strategic planning update review with our 30-member strategic plan committee in March. Some of the highlights of the accomplished strategies are 6.1.1, increased campus district use of school messenger for home school communications. This was very evident and extremely effective communications tool in dealing with the weather decisions recently. We were able to instantly communicate with students, parents, and staff. We have received many positive comments regarding our efforts at improving our home school communications this year. Also accomplished is strategy 2.1.1, implement campus data plan reviews by central administrators. Campus and district data review teams are meeting after each grading period to ensure campuses are implementing and progressing with their improvement plans. In strategy 4.1.1, seek opportunities for feedback regarding a future facilities bond referendum. We have completed the process of hiring an architectural firm and demographer and are currently forming a 30-member long-range facility planning committee. We know there is a great opportunity before us with the industrial growth and to possibly restructure and improve our facilities. The superintendent's cabinet members review the progress of each of the activities each quarter with their respective departments. The fact that our district plans are aligned with our strategic plan and the curriculum audit and the targeted improvement plans allows us to ensure that our work is meaningful and purposeful. This concludes our second quarter update, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Yeah, I saw one looked like it backslid a little bit.
I think it's good. Need a motion.
Just a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Everybody's done well. Not that the others aren't when you do them. Christmas special.
Well, I have one.
Yes, sir.
I'm frankly, I'm a little confused. When we say that all our strategies and performance objectives are being completed, we just got slapped in the hand with 11 of our schools, where the state told us that parents can take their children out and not be penalized. Are we saying that our strategies are not working at those 11 schools or not?
You may be speaking to instructional strategies. These are plans for improvement.
The instructional strategies?
Are a piece of the plan, yes, improvement in instructional strategies. Yes, but the strategies that I was referencing to are strategies in the plan, not necessarily instructional plan, instructional strategies.
Now I'm confused, Danny. Why?
When there are strategies in the district improvement plan, okay, those strategies are how we are going to implement the performance objective, which is tied to the goal. improving instructional strategies is part of the plan. That is a strategy. Improving instructional strategies is a strategy in the district improvement plan.
But how many strategies you said a while ago?
109.
And
Yeah.
on the strategic planning committee, we had 30 people come together, and then we broke apart. There's like 100 people, each taking a topic. Are they the ones who wrote these strategies, or do we revise them, or they suggest, or how did it work out?
Good luck.
I think it's important to remember that we have multiple plans. We have the strategic plan, which is a long-range plan. It's a 5-year plan. That's where we have the 130 committee. The district improvement plan is a requirement under federal law as it relates to funding, school funding. It starts with a needs, it's an annual plan. It's a 1-year plan. That's what you're getting a date on this evening, is our 1-year plan. It is aligned to the strategic plan. It is not in place of the strategic plan, but it does align. It does have some of the same strategies, the ones that we're working on for this year. It also aligns with our curriculum audit recommendations. Some of those are within this plan. So you will see some of those through our district improvement plan. They're all aligned to the needs assessment. Every year we do a needs assessment and we say, these are the things that are working and these are the things that are not working. So in the various categories we're required to address by law. One of those categories is teaching and learning, is the area of academic performance. In that area, we have needs that are reasons that we believe have caused some of the academic challenges that we've had on those 11 campuses, as well as really all of our campuses, in that we are working to address those. Strategies to address those needs or those deficiencies are noted within this plan. Yes, under Goal 1. That is a part of Goal 1.
I found it. It's performance objective 4, 2.2.1. There's an item on there that develop a screening process to ensure each candidate meets highly qualified criteria before employment. We were at considerable progress, now we're at some progress. I'm just kind of curious why we've exited.
That is Mr. Whitehead's, so he can probably speak to that. We were at considerable progress because we had a funding plan. The funding plan fell through, so we went to some progress. Then we were able to reacquire the funding necessary. So now we're back to actually considerable progress. So the training on that is actually takes place next week.
Okay, so
It was about funding. It's at one point we had the money secured. That grant that we were going to utilize went away. We were not allowed to use that grant for that particular item, so we were able to penny pinch from Mr. Whitehead and I's budget and bring the money together to actually move forward with that. So next quarter you'll see it as actually probably accomplished.
okay, but it is, are we measuring funding or are we measuring progress on completing that strategy? I know you need the funding to complete the strategy.
Yeah. If we were not able to secure the strategy, it probably would have had to have been discontinued. But the funding was the key element in this. Doesn't mean it wasn't a valuable strategy. It probably would have either been added to budget assumptions to be considered for the next year, or we would have continued to look for alternative funding. But we may not have been able to fund it this year. But luckily, we were able to work through that.
I'm not sure that's really an accurate measurement of that activity. I mean, to me, if you're developing the screening that involves training, whether you have the funding or not, I mean, it affects when you progress it, but if you're managing progress in that strategy, it should be how many people have been trained. So if greater than 50% have been trained, then you've made greater than 50% progress on that strategy. So to me, the funding, while it's important for implementation, should not be used to measure the actual implementation.
The strategy's not trained, the strategy's developed process, a screening process, and so that's why we measured it that way. Yeah, you're right. If the strategy was to train, we would have just been able to measure half trained, less than half, more than half, 100%. But the strategy is develop a screening process, and so that's the funding was tied in because the process was developed, and we were close to. We felt like we were more than halfway, and then the funding kind of kicked us back a little bit.
There was also a technology component to this, if I remember correctly, Jade, is the system that we were utilizing. Originally, we thought it was going to link with with Teams, and then we had to. Then they were not sure if it was going to be able to work together with that, and so we had to work through some issues there, technology-wise too. But the district improvement plan is a part of the federal funding requirements. It's all, the whole reason you do it is to track the funding.
What's impressive, we have 109 strategies going on right now.
And I appreciate Mr. Sullivan reading them all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Read through them, but then with all the smiling faces aside, you got to read that too, so. Pretty impressive. Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Massey. The next report is budget development calendar, process, and preliminary assumptions. Oh, I was hoping you did. Okay. So our next report is demographics and enrollment projections.
That always brings better news than I can.
You're our keynote speaker again.
Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy FD Local and Goal 4 in our strategic plan, Objective 4.1.2, that BISD will establish practices to ensure maximum utilization of facilities. It is my pleasure to present a report on the district enrollment and demographics. This is a graph of student enrollment beginning in year 2000. As you can see, we had a steady enrollment well above 13,000 students until 2006. We started seeing a decline that has continued every year. Since our peak in 2005-2006, our enrollment has declined almost 900 students. We have over 100 students fewer since the start of this school year. That is equivalent to over $600,000. We anticipate this trend to continue until industry growth creates permanent jobs. We know our municipalities are all anticipating growth and have plans for housing developments which could impact enrollment in those areas. This is a graphic showing individual campuses impacted by declines in enrollment by feeder patterns beginning in the 2010 school year when we first started tracking this data. As you can see, 3 of the 4 Lake Jackson elementary schools have seen a decline. Ney and Brandon have seen a loss of over 50 students each. Rasco and Lake Jackson Intermediate have combined to drop over 100 students. In our Clute feeder pattern, Ogg and Griffith have declined, while Polk has seen an increase of 8 students. Clute Intermediate has increased by 64 students, and Brazosport has remained basically flat. In our Brazosport feeder pattern, you can see 3 of our 4 elementary schools have also shown a decline in student enrollment. Velasco has lost 48 students. Lanier is slightly down, while Freeport Intermediate has shown an increase. Brazosport High School has seen a drop of 116 students since 2010. What does this mean for BISD? Since our funding from the state is based on student enrollment, it is a considerable loss in money. The decline in students is at various grade levels in every feeder pattern, which leads to inefficiencies in building operations. As part of the hiring of an architect firm last month, a professional demographer will be used to give us predictions for future enrollment based on future housing developments in response to industrial growth. Our district continues to see a change in student ethnicity. As you can see, 5 years ago, BISD became a minority-majority district. This trend continues. Our Hispanic students now make up over 50% of our student groups. White students make up a little over 36%. Our African American students have dropped a bit by this chart. However, the state implemented a new ethnicity group of 2 or more, and we have approximately 200 students in that group. The percentage of our economically disadvantaged students has increased 11% over the last 10 years. With the improved economy, we actually saw a slight dip this year from 58.4% to 57.2%. Changes in enrollment and demographics impacts funding, classroom instruction, and district operations. This concludes our report. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
I've been in a meeting, I think last year, Dr. Washington, our municipalities, and I don't know if it was to a municipality, but for the most part, they said growth was kind of limited because we didn't have, there wasn't housing available.
Right.
So, did I hear that they are looking at housing increases?
Right, we do. We have a great partnership with our municipalities, and it is a true partnership because they know and we know that we are actually interdependent on each other. People want quality schools before they live there, and we need homes for them to come to enroll and increase our enrollment too. So yes, there's some housing developments that include Freeport and Lake Jackson. We know of.
But after you have the flavor for when those might be coming available, I don't think it's this year, but maybe it's a year or 2 away.
3 years.
Yeah, well, I know there's some that they're pouring some concrete, turning some dirt on a few of them now. Most of them are still in the planning stages.
Lake Jackson, I got into this on the same questions, and they're looking at, in 2 to 5 years, there'll be 755,000 more single-family homes built. And we're in the area out in Prison Farm, also across from Bucky's in that area, and it's greatly to our advantage because these are going to be, most of them are going to be high-end. And I talked to 2 developers that are involved in the buildings, and they have the money now, and the land is available, and there's no big restrictions. So it looks good for the whole area, particularly for our district, with more kids this way.
Danny, do the other surrounding districts, I mean, are they going through the same thing as far as the change in demographics? I mean,
No.
are they the socioeconomics? I mean, are we the only ones in the boat? I know further north, maybe not, but I mean.
Pearland's the closest.
Angleton, Sweeney, I mean, are demographics similar?
The demographics are similar as far as in our immediate neighbors, the smaller ones, Danbury, Sweeney, West Columbia, Angleton, probably not quite at the rate that we're seeing. Ours are faster, are changing.
Angleton's limited right now in what's available to them.
The Fairland Outlet are growing.
Oh, the north part of the county with the 288 corridor, yeah, it's not loaded.
I have a question. What is our current?
We look at it every week. If I get back to my computer, I can share it.
I think in the cover letter it said that 153 are down 152 from the start of school.
We've lost over 100 students since the start of this school year, yes. And some weeks we gain some students. Some weeks.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, unfortunately, more weeks than we're losing students than we're gaining. But that's a fluctuating number. We're a very transient area too, so
calculate a mobility rate for the district.
It's part of the,
It's part of our Shaker report, that it's a couple years back.
Yeah, you don't, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I? What all of you need to pay attention, all of us, is public hearings being held, like Jackson and the other towns, pertaining to developments. It's very important for us to go at those meetings and speak out, usually in support of it. Because the ones that are coming to Lake Jackson, that they're gonna be voting on, whatever, will have a massive help to us. And we need to encourage the passage of these. It's not gonna cost the city any money to do it. But see, sometimes one or two people sit on a thorn, and I could say something else, or get wild hair. Please go. Contact the city council that you know. Be sure you know what you're talking about. Tell them you support it and have a little bit of a reason why. Because if you don't, the school district can get slammed back. There won't be a place for all of these people. And you know there's going to be 8,000 to 12,000 contract workers in this area for probably 5 or 6 years before all these are over. And there has to be a place for it. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Cool, thank you, John. You guys ready to move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just had one, I mean, when they remove themselves or withdraw from school, I mean, do we collect data on the exact reason why? Because so far, all I've seen is just kind of more or less anecdotal description of why people are leaving. It'd be nice if we started, especially with that much of a decline over this many years, I think it would warrant more accurate data collection and analysis.
we do, Michelle, we started doing that this year, and the number one reason is withdrawal to enroll in another school district within the state.
Jobs.
The number one reason for withdrawal.
So maybe we can find out why they're going to jobs, say jobs or something, maybe a little deeper as possible.
Yeah, well, they don't have to tell us, and we report it, we have to report it in teams, and so that's how we're able to track it now, and we go back and have teams coding to where, whether it's homeschool or, withdrawal reasons. So since we've been tracking it this year, that's the number one reason.
See, I've called.
Move to another district.
It'd be interesting to see a report. The actual data.
George, what I did is call some that I found out that were leaving. I asked them several questions. You got jobs and housing. Because if they were at the very bottom, there's a little bit of housing. But in this medium range, and I'm talking 150,000 down, there were very few. And when you get up to the top, there was. So housing, that's why I said go to Lake Jackson. Beat on their head, anybody's about residential development. Thank you, I'm through. I'm gonna send up word because I'm getting tired and I need to go home.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? You guys ready to move on? Thank you, Mr. Massey, very much. Appreciate it. Our next topic is budget development calendar process and preliminary assumptions. Mr. Schaefer.
I know why you're impatient about it. Because I was supposed to present this last month. We've had to wait so long. But, read it twice already. But I don't really just say
Why
much.
don't you just say amen and sit down?
This is in accordance with Board Policy CE, along with strategic objectives to provide adequate resources through alternate funding. This is very preliminary, obviously early stages. Numbers are subject to change, dates are subject to change as more information becomes available. This is a non-legislative year, so really the variables come down to property values and student counts when it comes to revenues. And then any other efficiencies, not on the revenue side, but on the expenditure side, really comes down to what programs are offered budget basics. I know some of this is going to be redundant for some, but I do want to make sure it's available to you. It will be up on your site for future review. So I won't go over everything in extreme detail, but just as a reminder, superintendent is the budget officer. We must have the budget prepared, not adopted. Prepared means we can't make any changes to it by August 20th, so that we can call a public hearing and give 10 days notice to have it adopted by, legally by the 31st. No funds can be expended, and as you may recall, our beginning of the year is September 1. If we don't have it adopted by August 31st, we can't legally spend any money until a budget is adopted. We will prepare the budget in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, as well as federal, state, and local requirements. The budget must be adopted before the tax rate, and then tax rate thereafter. If you look at three budgets, one general fund, which is our primary operating fund, food service, which is self-explanatory, and then debt service, which is to fund our facility major bond initiatives. And we do submit this once adopted through TEA through EAMS, our Public Education Information Management System. I have a calendar. This is kind of small, so this is also going to be on your site. This is if you notice from, if you compare to last year, George, if you compare this calendar to last year, you'll notice that there are some improvements to it. What we've identified through the curriculum audit was that there was opportunities for improvement to implement a program-centered budgeting process. So the schedule's been modified to match up with needs assessment, federal funding, program evaluations. So this calendar's been adjusted. A lot of things have shifted a month in order to provide those opportunities for those meetings to actually develop and record from a program-centered budgeting analysis. Basically, what's working, what's not working. We're going to look at what's successful and continue with it. If it's not successful, let's look for something that is successful. So this does provide those opportunities. It's an expanded calendar, which should model a more useful calendar and realistic timeline for implementation. That's one of the things we've seen over the years is that, golly, I don't know my federal funding until June, but I'm trying to make my staffing allocations earlier in the year. True, we have a gauge. We're building in the timeline for doing those staffing evaluations. That's why we shift everything a month, provide those opportunities. We won't receive our values till later in the year, so anytime I talk about property values right now, it's 100% estimate. I do have some feel for industrial, but I don't have a feel for homes at this point or other businesses that they haven't announced programs. So obviously, any of the ones we have 313 agreements with, I have information on those based on their construction projections, but I don't have the other companies, which we know there's lots of other stuff going on. So hopefully it'll even improve based on what I know to date. Our roles and responsibilities, there's basically 5 areas: a site-based committee, campus principal, central office administrators, superintendent, and the school board. And then this, which is also available in a handout and will be available on your site, highlights the various areas that each individual is responsible for. Really, I included this as a reference point for future, but it does highlight that it's not a one individual show. It starts with the site-based committee, which can be your campus or department, moves on to their either campus principal or director, central office role, superintendent, and school board. So it's a process that involves a lot of folks, and which is why it's very time-consuming to ensure that we're getting what we feel is effective strategies for our district. To give you a recap, as reminder, where are we at as far as our 13-14 budget? We've adopted a deficit budget of $1.458 million, knowing in that budget we had budgeted contingencies, which basically expenditures that they're not defined, they're not allocated for a specific purpose. It's expenditures built into the budget that in case we need them, we can use them. If we don't need any of them, then it just becomes surplus. And so if we didn't need any of the $3.4 million of contingencies, we would have roughly a $2 million surplus. Well, what's happened in the current year? You saw that slide that Danny showed. We've had continued drops in enrollment. Now, that doesn't hurt us on the expenditure side, but it does hurt us on the revenue side. It reduces the amount that we receive. And at the time I did this slide, we were down roughly at 126, so it varies from week to week. But that reduces revenue by roughly $643,000. In addition, we've had some additional costs, but even though we've had decreases in overall enrollment, we've had pockets of classrooms that have seen increases, which resulted in additional teachers, so we wouldn't have to move students around. Difficult to move them once school gets going. That's been roughly $350,000. And then with the various status of 11 campuses, we've had to hire professional service providers to help improve the situation. So, revised estimate, our actual surplus will be, if nothing else comes about, roughly $758,000 if all other expenditures are utilized. So it's good to show you it's important to have those contingencies built into the budget because you just never know what may occur. Good news, fund balance, we're finally to an optimum level. I think we discussed this a couple meetings ago, but $29.458 million according to our audit as of August 31st, 2013 for general fund. And we did use roughly $2 million of that for the healthcare supplement K-12 inside, so money well spent. For 14-15, on the revenue side, taxable values, looking at, like I said, the 313 agreements that we have in place and their construction timeline, we're looking at roughly a 9% increase in values. Enrollment, historically, we've been increasing about 120 a year, so we're going to build into the budget. With those two variables, that provides us additional revenue of $2.5 million. That's 14-15. So that would bring our total revenues for general fund to 85.4, or nearly $85.5 million. For 15-16, our growth in property values isn't quite as high. So based on the current law, we'll have a legislative session in between now and 15-16. So things are really subject to change, and there's a lawsuit going on. Our revenues would decline again, back down to 82.9. I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that because when you're budgeting for increases in pay as a long-term commitment, that if you want the revenue support, it makes it a challenge to do that indefinitely. But for 16-17, with the increase in values again, we would come back up to 85.1. So it's staying fairly flat with a little dip in there in the middle. Some of the other considerations, TRS, we have an additional district contribution that's required based on the last legislative session. They delayed it 1 year and said it's not effective immediately, but for school year 14-15, school districts need to contribute an additional 1.5% to TRS. That's roughly $803,000, and that is funded by the state for 1 year, and it's not included in the 85.5 that I mentioned above. So that would be additional revenue on top of to cover this additional cost. So net no gain, net no loss either. Some of the things, obviously, 84% of our cost is tied up in people or service industry. So obviously competitive pay, if we're striving to be competitive in pay, it does make a huge impact on the budget. Staffing ratios as well. Additional programs with House Bill 5. Providing flexibility and options is costly because there's more variety of teachers to provide. Obviously, we'll work with schedules as best we can and maximize that. But there could be some additional consideration there. Each 1% pay adjustment is always a question, so I thought I'd just put it in here. About $625,000 for each 1% in pay. The guiding principles will be distributed March 11th through a survey, so be on the lookout on, in your email. This is what will help us prioritize through the budgeting process, because clearly there's a lot of wants and needs. Everything has to be prioritized and prioritized based on this survey. Look forward to working with everyone and feedback throughout the year. This is just the beginning of many meetings.
So one quick question.
Sure.
What is the amount of the budget that goes to salaries for all the employees?
About 84%. That excludes debt service. It's just operating costs.
Thank you.
Normally, we have one budget workshop.
Last year we had two, well, I think there's three. There was we discuss it every meeting, but we have an actual workshop for two.
I see there. Oh, it's all one. That's okay. That's good.
Double check.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Shea.
I'm sorry.
Here's a question. In your experience, the first question is, when were we down if unbalanced to like 5 sevenths?
It was 5.7 million.
When was that?
It was, I think it was either 05, 06 or
So roughly about 9 years, roughly 8 to 9 years.
In reality, it was less than that. We were self-insured for health insurance, and $2 million deficit in that fund, so we're actually down to 3.7.
So through the administration's financial stewardship, we got it up to $29+ million.
That was one of the board initiatives early on when I initially was employed, was what to do with the fund balance. Obviously, there was a key focus on that. And to do it during a time where we had declining revenues, there's been a huge team process. We've looked at a lot of things that hopefully didn't impact the classroom. Obviously, heating and cooling. We had some issues this past year with heating and cooling issues, but just on utilities alone, we were at, 2 years ago, 2010, no, it's not 3 years ago, 2010, we were at $4 million a year in utility costs. We're down to $2.7 million. I mean, it's a huge reduction in utilities.
And you're covering more area now.
We actually do have a little more space,
Yeah.
with PRC building. So there's a lot of efficiencies that are occurring, trying to help with that situation. Really every dollar saved is a dollar that we can put back somewhere else or put back in the fund balance. So trying to put as much as we can back in the programs. And
So what I'm looking for is how does that that's kind of a, I don't know what I'm looking for. It's not normally, you would normally see something like that in that period of time? That increase?
It's been very rapid.
It's been
when I got here, it was about 10 million was in fund balance, and we've gone from 10 million to 19. I mean, 19 to 29 in 2.5.
Wouldn't our goal 28 million? That's what we're supposed to have or something like that. So
29. Actually, I'm just on fund balance is right at, we're $100,000 low short of exact optimal fund balance this year based on TA.
I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to applaud the administration because we were, I took that as we were in the red zone. If something something happened and we may not have had the funds to cover it. But now we're to where our auditors say that this is where you need to be. And so I applaud the administration for getting us there in such a short period of time.
I think one thing too, and I agree with him, is the fact that you've cut expenses, major expenses on interest. And that's a big chunk of money, Dan, that you and the administration saved. It's going out. And so I'm very proud of the administration on the whole area
but we have, and his team as well, but it's been everybody involved. I know principals have looked for efficiencies, ways that money could be utilized differently. Departments have, our maintenance department has done a great job, our technology department. Every group has worked really hard to really find ways in which they can work more efficiently while still being effective and ultimately save money and put money back into the classrooms and into our fund balance. So it really is an amazing feat that has been achieved in the last few short years in regards to our financial stability and financial health in the district. And so I, again, just want to affirm what Mr. Demian was saying and to Mr. I was going to say Dan. I can't figure like Schaefer. He's only Dan to me. To Mr. Schaefer. But thank him for all the work that he's done in his team.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Appreciate it very much.
I thought it stunk, Dan.
Yeah. Our next report is curriculum audit update.
I'm gonna wake you up.
Good evening. In accordance with board policy, e.g. local and strategic objectives, teaching and learning, it is my pleasure to provide the board with the second quarterly curriculum audit update this year. A copy of the curriculum audit update has been provided on your board site, so we should be ready to go this evening. All right. Based on 3 streams of data derived from interviews, documents, and site visits, the auditors named 9 recommendation categories listed here, with 137 specified action steps for improvement. This is important to look at where we started. We're still making progress on addressing the curriculum audit recommendations. The timeline for addressing audit findings is set for 5 years. However, we are confident we will complete the recommendation steps in less time. In this chart, you will see the progress in which recommendation in each recommendation category.
Dr. Sandra, I'm going to pause you for just a second. I think we're having some technical difficulty and we're not keeping up with your charts. There we go. You overclicked, you clicked us right out, so that's okay. We were done. Okay, I think we're on the right chart now.
Somebody told me to put my paper here.
You did real good.
You did great.
Sorry, where should I start? Where?
You're good, just keep going.
Keep going, okay. I'm gonna start at the end, no. We're still making progress on addressing the curriculum audit recommendations. The timeline for addressing the audit findings is 5 years. However, we're confident we're going to complete the recommendation in less time. The chart you will see above, it shows the progress in each of the recommendation categories. We have combined some of the duplicate recommendations, but as you can see, we are nearing completion of the foundational recommendation of policy, which will support many of the other recommendation steps. So to date, we have completed 49 of the 137 action steps, which would be 35.7%. And last quarter, we were at 32.1% with 44 of the items completed. Now, if you went back and just counted the items, you're going to get more than that. But they're only categories. So you're going to count more, but it's really, in reality, not as many.
You're doing great.
This concludes the second quarterly update. I'm happy to answer any questions before I run away. Yes, sir.
Where do you think we'll be in another quarter? Just a guess.
Well, we have one more step. If we go back. If we go back here, you can see that the policy guides our work. So once we've completed that recommendation, that's gonna open up the door for completing more. So hopefully, we'll be able to move forward. I can't really guess to say how many are, you know.
But I see where we're going.
Because it's just, my portion is curriculum, but it's every department. It's not just curriculum, it's every department.
I think it was good. Thank you for answering my question.
So we have 5 years to complete all of the recommendations. And so far, the progress is being measured by our own internal assessment of completion. Okay, so if we don't complete the items after 5 years, what happens?
And we'll have to continue working on them.
We
But
won't get dinged by the state for not having completed.
no, this is what we've taken upon ourselves to
Okay,
change.
so it's an internal requirement.
Yes.
We're gonna get this done in 5 years.
Yes.
It wasn't an internal requirement, it was something that was chosen to be done to determine where we were in the curriculum. So it wasn't required by anything, except.
Right, it was local, right, internal decision.
I have a question on one of them, and we can talk about it later, but the professional development portion, and that appears to be done on the district level?
Yes.
And the campuses looked at their
The campuses,
individual.
the campuses worked on a campus staff development plan, and they submitted that to our director of curriculum. So that will now go into our information as to how we will provide professional development for all of our campuses moving forward.
Do we have a measurement of professional development? There's one that says we're not going to do more than 3 in 3 years or something. Addressing on professional development.
Professional development, we have a different range. Previously, we have, as soon as we get back from break, we have professional development a day. Then we have in February a professional development day. We have summer professional development. We have online professional development. We have campus professional development. We have coaches providing professional development. We go to Region 4 for professional development. We go to conferences for professional development. So it's embedded in everything that we do. For our campuses and for our educators to progress, they have to be trained. And so that's a huge part of our work in curriculum and instruction and assessment, is that we have, with the data reviews, that brings up more professional development that we need. For anything that teachers cannot do, we need to provide them training and information to support.
Again, there's one that indicates that we're not gonna try to do 6, or it's limited, right?
Well, you know, we have the number of days that you can.
No, I mean.
Initiatives, yes, as far as there are several, initiatives that we're working towards, and they need to be embedded within the curriculum before we can move forward. So, you can get carried away with any new wonderful thing that sounds good and go, oh, okay, squirrel, okay, we'll go over here, squirrel, we'll go over there, and then nothing ever sticks. So, you know, we can say that we've heard it, we've taught it, but if you don't see it when you do a walkthrough, then it's not embedded. You have to, 90% of the time, you have to be doing this, and if it's not 90% of the time, then it's not embedded in the curriculum.
It appears that the strike-throughs are the ones from last year.
Yes.
I figured that out.
Mhm.
I took it all too. My second reading, oh, yeah, that's what they did. They looked at the data. And I guess the question on the curriculum review cycle is on page 28. What does that mean?
Curriculum review is, when you look at what we provide, we have to review it because standards change. So we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So with those changes, we have to update and review the curriculum. And to do that, we usually work with our teachers. We look at what the requirements are. Like for instance, the standards have gone up in math and science. It's changed. So we have to educate our teachers on what are those changes. And then when we're looking at, it's time for an adoption of instructional materials. How will that fit into what we're doing? So that all has to be embedded into the curriculum.
It's not, the cycle's not really a time frame, it's just a.
Well, it's
I mean,
it's under a time frame because we have to embed it and be ready.
But it's not every 2 years, it's when.
It's whenever there's a change and it also could be when our teachers are looking at the curriculum and they say, this just doesn't fit. This doesn't make any sense for us to teach this at this time of the day or this time of the year or whatever. And so we make some adjustments because it's in the best interest of our students because they might need another skill before. So we do minor adjustments.
And one last thing, when we as a board have some goals and duties.
Oh, yes, you do.
The way it's talked, it's a governance function.
Yes.
Following actions are recommended to the Brazosport Independent School District Board of Trustees.
Yes.
I know this is a spreadsheet and all that. How difficult would it be to put just the board names together on so that we can kind of see that? Because it's, I mean, it's on each recommendation, so it's a little hard to follow it, but I don't know if you can cut and paste.
Well, we could do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. Do you want it by the year or by 5-year progress time?
How about every day?
I don't know, I guess really I'm just highlighting the fact that we should be looking at this, you know, and I've read it a couple times, but I find something new every time that it's so long. I guess maybe Jim
It's
can
oversight.
lead us in that. So,
Yeah, it's oversight.
I mean, we've made a lot of progress that we probably didn't know we made. So, very
It's sounding better all the time.
I think a key element too is to remember this is a breakdown of the comprehensive audit. The comprehensive audit is on our district website, and I think it's really important that gives a much larger picture of the overall audit as well as the findings, and I think that is critical to look at because when you look at the audit, it was a great predictor for us in regards to performance.
yeah, and that's, when I read it again in the last 3 or 4 days, that put more meaning to this, so that's why
I agree with you, I like that, like this.
I'm done.
I have a question, please. Am I to understand that this curriculum audit, that we're talking about something that we developed?
The curriculum audit was done by a group of auditors that came in, and we provided them with information to guide their research.
Where did the group of auditors come from?
We requested them.
Is that the audit that we paid $45,000
Yes,
and suggested these 125 steps that needed to be addressed?
137, yes, yes, yes.
When we bring those auditors back, when we say we're done and validate that we are in fact done?
If we pay them.
But is that something, yeah, but is that something we would consider?
Ideally, that would be good. Ideally, you want to have them do an audit review about every 5 to 8 years.
Yeah, but I think I'd like to have one to see how they did it on just this one thing. I mean, go on.
It's, I mean, it's a 5-year plan, maybe at year 4, we look at doing an audit to see if we're in fact on track.
Well, what ideally, what you want to see is that after you put in those safeguards that they suggested, that now, is this sufficient? If what we've done, is it really up to standards? Because there were some places in the audit where it said that we would never reach parity. We wouldn't. And so what we're trying to do is to work on that, to make sure that that's not something that we ever see again.
And is that what the state agency told us recently?
This is for the audit. This is just for some of the practices and procedures that we talked about in this today, and the 9 standards.
Well, aren't these practices and procedures to be implemented in the curriculum?
Not just because of the curriculum. It's all staff, it's all our, functioning within the district.
Well, I'm concerned about what the state just told us. Something's not working.
No.
We can't ignore the fact that the state came here and told us 11 of our schools are not functioning properly.
Well, I don't see where the surprise is when the audit told us that 2 years ago, that we were not functioning
I'm
properly.
surprised because in 2 years, we haven't seemed to correct the problem.
We're working on it, and obviously this audit's helping us. And I just question, how many times have we done an audit in the past? I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard of us doing something like this, so. First time. So it's a positive step for us to want to bring it
Well,
on.
we won't get in and get started. I have a question.
Sure.
Do I get a copy of that audit, please?
Yes, we can get you a copy.
Okay, no rush, just.
It's online, we have it online, but we
Yeah,
can also,
I can't.
but we can get you a copy.
Would you please?
Yes.
But I agree with Mr. Sullivan, it'd be nice to bring him back
Because I can't.
4 years, continue doing this, see where we're at, and maybe move forward, so.
Yeah, because we may think we cheated it, but they come back and look at it. Fudgy.
Anyway, Senator, if you would just wait.
Any other questions before we go on? Discussion? Thank you very much. Appreciate it very, very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And remember,
Good to see
we
our
appreciate
improvements.
you. Even if my hair is shorter than yours.
Our next report is employee engagement and focus groups report. Mr. Whitehead, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. In accordance with Board Policy DEAB Legal and BQ Legal, it is my pleasure to present the Employee Engagement and Focus Group Report. One of our 6 strategic goals in BISD is that all staff will actively contribute to organizational excellence, with our strategies being to create a workplace environment that fosters collaboration and values contributions of every employee, and establishing an effective system for recruiting, equipping, and retaining a qualified, diverse staff. The purpose of this presentation is to share with you some of the efforts we have made over the past year to achieve the strategic goal, as well as our next steps. We recognize that competitive salaries are an important influence on employee recruitment and retention, which is why we have increased salaries by over $3 million this year and stipends by approximately $300,000. On top of these increases, we've also recommended an additional $1,200 one-time health care supplement to all employees. We also have implemented a few perks for our employees with the launch of our B-Cell and the partnership with our local businesses to give our employees discounts throughout the community. We still have room to improve in the area of compensation, but we do believe these are all positive steps in the right direction. Salaries are clearly important, but due to legislative budget cuts a few years ago, a reduction in staff was an unfortunate reality. However, we are pleased that we've been able to increase campus support in the past year and hope to continue to look for more funding in the coming year to support this goal. We all know that salary and workload are important factors. However, sometimes a thank you can let employees simply know they are cared about and valued. Therefore, we have created a number of awards to honor the great work of our teammates in BISD. Although you can see we have already made some positive steps towards our strategic goal, there are still some additional areas we have targeted, such as improving the availability and quality of resources, especially in the area of technology. We have also continued to increase and improve collaboration and communication through a variety of methods, and these are just a few of the highlighted ways in which we are striving to reach our strategic goal. We have provided the board with a more comprehensive list of our current forms of communication and the target audiences and participants. Finally, as we build on our strengths of the programs and additions just discussed, we are utilizing our third-party partner, K-12 Insight, to help us gain even a deeper understanding of the educational climate throughout the district, so we can continue to improve employee engagement. In November, K-12 Insight conducted confidential focus group discussions with randomly selected teachers covering all grade levels, as well as campus administrators. Findings from these sessions revealed targeted areas such as some gaps in the flow of communication, a need to further communicate and explain our strategic plan, a need to address the balance of communication and collaboration to ensure enough without being excessive. A summary of the findings of these are posted in a new section called Your Voice Matters, which can be found on the BISD homepage. These focus group findings were used as a basis for the development of site-level climate surveys for our staff and students, in addition to input from our district communication representatives and a survey committee including teacher and administration representatives, and also Mr. Cook. The staff survey is scheduled to be sent out the last week of February, with the student surveys going out over spring break. The data from these surveys will give direction as we work to establish more engagement and two-way communication with our community in the months ahead. Plans for a community survey, student and community focus groups, senior exit surveys, and early next year, an employee engagement survey. This concludes a summary of the employment engagement and focus group report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. Yes, sir.
Oh. The status of the TASB. Status of the TASB salary plan?
The TASB salary plan is, they've submitted for all of our pay files, and those pay files are being transferred to them for evaluation. Let's begin.
And then our site level group survey, or whatever it's called, how do we work on getting more participation? That's not a question you can answer. I mean, I think, you know, hopefully collectively we can come up with something that can get down to the principals and teachers, and then see, encourage them. You know, I heard you complain before I was elected that, hey, you know, no third party. Well, this is a third party, so that's out the window. So how do we, hopefully collectively, we can put some emphasis on this, because we need to know the information. I think that's pretty important. So I hope that we'll work on that, because it's coming up real quickly. That's it.
Can you say something about senior exit surveys?
Yes.
Seniors who graduate. I always wonder why they didn't do that. I think that value of this,
absolutely.
our opinion, so. We haven't done it before, right?
No, we did. No, we did, several years ago. It stopped about 12 years ago. But before that, I did.
I think you said 12.
What I was gonna say, I think we ought to do that, but you ought to start a week or so before the end of school for them. Don't wait and hand it to them as they leave, you'll never get it back.
For June 6th.
Well, I don't care. What I'm saying is, want anything.
Maybe in September, before senioritis sets.
Yeah, but otherwise, I just don't mind what.
They also do it a year later.
Yeah, they want to follow them.
They do it a year later after their freshman year or their first year in the workforce. They also try to reach out to them.
I want to note that we don't have just audience speaking out. This is Tammy Sophia. She's our communications coordinator specialist. She actually works with K-12 Insight on these surveys, as well as Carla Chrisman, our public relations administrator. They are the direct contacts with K-12 and have been working very closely with the committees and our district communication representatives from each campus on this. So I wanted to point that out.
But I still want to come back to a point that if we want these graduating seniors to fill something out, it needs to be given to them early. I granted we need to keep going on and on with it, but I'm very interested in what the seniors will say while they're still there and they're going away. And then a year or whatever down the road. Because I'll bet
Mr. White, thank you very much for your report.
I have another quick question.
Oh, sure.
And this is with the salaries, you know, I'm on the edge of the question, but Tasby, the salary plan and such, you know, when we get that, then we as a board really need to try to make a decision on what that salary range wants to be, what we want to do. At median, 10%, 15% ahead, so, now, I guess that's why I was asking Dan earlier, how many times are we gonna do the workshop? So, that we may need to do another one after we get that.
I think so on that.
Maybe if we decide we keep it low, so other districts don't beat us like they did last year, you know, come back and, you know, try to top us. Secret, yeah, I'm saying, low profile. But I would, and I also agree with you about getting more people involved in K-12 Insight Survey. I hope we get lots of participation, so.
Jim, I think we have to have a work session on that as board members, with whoever we need, because that's a big money item. See, I don't care if other schools know what we pay or don't pay. They're all gonna know after it's over anyway. And we have to set ours, what we feel we can afford, and what we know our professionals are worth, and how we're gonna fund it. And not worry about the other guys, because.
Except we want to compete with them for great teachers, so, and great administrators and great personnel, so we want to compete.
And that's where I was coming from, we gotta do it. Here, so.
Okay, on the site level climate surveys, February, March, what, is that when it's gonna be done and sent out, or is that gonna be when we're expecting the results of the surveys back?
The last week of February, the staff goes out, and it'll go through spring break, and then the student one is scheduled for the week after spring break.
Okay, but on the site one, that's the one that's going out to the teachers and staffs and stuff like that?
That's campus.
Campus, okay. Do we have a percentage of return surveys that we think is an acceptable goal? Because I know in some cases, you know, if we only get 10, 15, 20%, that may not be sufficient for the proper analysis, and, you know, so do we have a target in mind of what we legitimately think we could get back? And do we have a timetable of when we're gonna be pushing people based on those surveys?
And we have worked with the committee, the district communications committee, and just, you know, the third party piece, just getting that communication out to them, I think is being already effective, because they're like, you know, this really is confidential, and this, we need this feedback, or we're not gonna see improvements, or they're not gonna get real data. So I think that already, but yes, I think, like 99.9%. You know, I mean, I'd say 80% would be.
Has K-12 provided any kind of expectations based on trends that they've seen in other districts? Because in some cases, the research that I've ever been involved in, I mean, if we got 30 or 40% somewhere in there, we felt privileged.
They said 60% would be great.
60% would be great, okay.
Yeah.
Ideally, they would like to have above that 50% mark and get closer to the 60%.
Yeah, I like the 80-20 rule, not the 20-80.
Right, I agree with you. So we're gonna keep pushing and try to get, many opportunities for response and encouragement for response, but I think, Ms. Sophia is right. She, with District Communication Council, really understanding, the process, and there's representatives from each campus on that, council, and really getting the word out that it is truly confidential. It is a third-party group that is looking at the data, and so I think that will really help with response rates.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be pushed that they need to help us help themselves. So, I mean, if they don't survey or they don't comment back, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't fix what we don't know is broken.
Mr. President, I have one other item. We have until tomorrow, on our board newsletter, we have that survey. It's like 18, 19 pages long, so it's pretty lengthy. But, so we can, you know, if we want some input, now's the time to look at that and get some input back. It's pretty lengthy, so that's the only complaint I see is, you know, they take a little longer to fill out, and that may be a drawback, but these guys are there, let's hope. That's it.
Thank you.
Would you, whoever expressed site in front of them, sir. And as a board member, I'm asking that they, would they please do it? I want to know how they, I mean, that's personal. I mean, I want to know how they feel. I can't speak for the other.
Well, you speak for me, because I agree with you.
But I'm specifically requesting as a board member, please, I would like to see.
I'm with you there.
Just a general comment, I'll speak.
I'm proud of it, because that's what all of them want that. We don't have to advertise anything.
Thank you. And I agree, all of us, since we asked to make this available for our district, I think we're all behind it completely, so.
I heard what Carla said. I mean, could we have a letter from the board going to the staff, to the district, to say we want this, we really would appreciate it?
One of the discussions we've already had is about actually having a video that goes out with some of our board members. So where your actual lovely faces show up on the video. So that's what we've seen so far in the feedback we've received is that they like videos. And we're in a YouTube world, and that's something that they enjoy.
Which one of us had speech?
I don't know. You guys can fight over who gets to be a part of that.
Yeah, most of, as Danny said, most of this crew up here has face for radio.
Let's get on with the show.
Thank you, Mr. White, we appreciate it very, very much. It's getting exciting. Our next report is, at this time we'll have committee reports, and board committees reports provide our trustees the opportunity to briefly share information gained from district committee meetings they attended over the past month. Are there any committee reports from our board members this evening that you attended this past month?
I'm just gonna say I'm looking forward to this Friday's leadership meeting. I'll be able to attend that.
Maybe you'll learn something.
Maybe I will.
All I've attended is the bond oversight committee meeting. It was lively and a great group, and look forward to the finance oversight committee tomorrow. So, anybody else? And then draw your attention to the dates coming up on our agenda here, and we can all review those individually. And if there is no objection, we will adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Oh, I got to read this one. Sorry. We have one item under work session discussion this evening that needs to be scheduled. This is important. On February 25th, we'd like to schedule a board workshop with work on some visioning regarding the long-range facilities plan with the architects and hear a report regarding the upcoming program access review by TEA. The meeting will begin at 5 with each segment intended to last about an hour. And we need to confirm the state to make sure it works for the board. So the date is February 25th, starting at 5.
We bring our sandwich.
Is that a problem with the architects?
Well, let's just do the best we can.
5:30?
Yeah.
5:30?
So it'll be February 25th at 5:30. All right, so we're set for that. And we're not going to have a second agenda, executive session, so if there is no objection, we'll adjourn the meeting. Hearing none, the meeting stands adjourned.